From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on being purpose-driven. This is one of my this lesson, I guess, or really this concept of being purpose-driven, of being intentional. It's one of the keys, I think, to being successful in life, not just in leadership or influence with our families or at work or community, but being successful in life. I think really comes down to our ability to be purpose driven, to live with intention. And I love this concept because it's so powerful when we apply it to our goals and our dreams and whatever we want to achieve in life. We have to be intentional. We have to live a life on purpose, with purpose, for purpose, because purpose gives us meaning. Robert Bryan said, "The purpose of life is a life of purpose." And there are so many people who they just sort of drift through life and kind of whatever happens and um, they take what life brings them, but there's not a lot of intentional effort toward achieving anything. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Each one of us determine what's most valuable to us in life, and that's how that's what we live our life by, and there's nothing wrong with that. I can't tell anyone that their values should be my values, not at all. But what I've realized is that influence in life, success in life, achieving results and goals and dreams require us to have the value of living with intention. So you may be one of those people who's not intentional, and that's okay. But your life will reflect those results. So I remember it's been quite a few years ago, and I was working on my MBA, and one of my classmates and I were talking about, gosh, after class, we were talking about working full time and going to school for the MBA degree. And it was accelerated program, so we were our coursework was pretty heavy, and we were talking during class break or something like that. We're talking about, man, we just didn't have a whole lot of time. And now, from my perspective, when I'm saying, man, I don't have a lot of extra time, I at the time I was really focused and purpose driven in my life. And I mean, I was not only working a full-time job in my career, I had a part-time job teaching group fitness. And that was, 8 classes a week, sometimes multiple classes in a day. I was also training for a marathon, training for my very first 26-mile marathon. And, I was married. We had Eric, so I was playing the role of wife and mom, and that meant buying the groceries and cooking meals and, doing all of these things and going to school and doing them all at the same time. And, from my perspective, when I said, gosh, I just don't have a lot of extra time, it's because I had dedicated every single minute in my life at the time to achieving something. There wasn't a lot of downtime on the weekends. On the weekends I was studying. During the week I was working, and then teaching group fitness, or maybe I was training, and then I was cleaning house and buying groceries and all of the other things. And still, somewhere in there, you got to work in time to, visit with family and all of that stuff. So, as from my perspective, there was just not a lot of time that was not intentionally focused and used appropriately. And it was so funny because she and I were talking, and I remember so clearly, she was like, yeah, there's just not a lot of time with all the schoolwork. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. From my perspective, I was down to sleeping only 6 hours a night some nights because I knew I needed more time to get something done. And that's one way I could do it. And I don't advocate that, by the way. It was it served its purpose, but my health suffered tremendously over that year because I wasn't getting enough sleep. I wasn't resting my body enough. Well, anyway, a few minutes later, the conversation moves on, and she was talking to someone else, just turning around and talking to someone else in our circle, and they were talking about a TV reality show. And I was floored because she'd just been talking about there wasn't a lot of extra time and how was she finding time to study. And then she turned around and they were talking about they had been watching this TV show like all season and never missed a show, and binge watching, this one particular TV show. And I was thinking, you know what? I can't even remember the last time I sat down on my couch because every single minute of my day was dedicated to something. Now, my point here is there's nothing wrong with watching TV, or there's nothing wrong with sleeping 8 hours a night. We need time for rest and recreation and recreation. And that's absolutely appropriate. When we spend time doing those activities that refuel us and recharge us, that is purposeful because we need that. The problem is that a lot of people allow those activities to take up far too much time. You certainly nothing wrong with watching a TV show on Netflix. But if you're watching 8 hours straight of that TV show, there again, nothing wrong with it, but the results in your life are going to reflect that. So when you think about it, if you are completely 100% satisfied and completely in your purpose-driven life at this moment, and you don't have goals or dreams that you want to achieve, then maybe you are at a good point in your life when you want to, binge watch Netflix. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know about you, but I want more out of life. I want to do more. I want to be more. I want to have more. I want more life. And watching 10 hours of TV does not serve me in that purpose. So what I'm really saying here is set your intentions. Identify your purpose for what you're doing. And if you're doing it on purpose, then do it. If it's intentional instead of by default, that's where really our power to achieve things in life, our power of setting goals and achieving them. So we've got to have a life of purpose, a life of intention. Your purpose is the aligning factor. Living in the words of Rick Warren, the purpose-driven life. Once you have identified that purpose, you start aligning your life or your activities around it, and it really is a qualifier. It really allows you to judge, is this an activity that serves me or not? And the answer might still be no, and you might still choose to do it, but you have intentionally stepped away from your priorities and your purpose and saying for this amount of time or for today or whatever, I'll step away from something that helps me achieve, and that's okay. Perhaps it is a recharging activity. Perhaps it's recreation. Perhaps it's just time with loved ones, and that's intentional. That's intentionally stepping away. There's nothing wrong with that. My point here is just be intentional. Just think about it. But it really, in order to think about it, we've got to have that qualifier of a purpose to begin with. If you haven't read Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, that's a fabulous book. It takes you through I think it's 40 days of identifying your purpose, and he asks you to think about some things and drill down into it. And it's a really thought-provoking book. I wish I'd read it 15 years ago. There's a famous scene in Lewis Carroll's book. You're probably familiar with it, Alice in Wonderland, where Alice comes to a crossroads and the Cheshire Cat is sitting there. And she asks the cat, she says, which road should I take? Well, where do you want to go? The cat asks. Well, I don't really know, says Alice. Then it doesn't matter which road you take, the cat says, and he grins and he fades away. And that's so true. A lot of times we go, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know which road to take. But if you don't know where you're going, it's going to be really difficult to know which road to take. If you don't know where you want to go in life, it's going to be really hard to focus your activities and your effort around getting there. So, first thing, number one, you've got to identify your purpose. And you may not be there yet. It's kind of certainly a growth journey, but you absolutely can start getting in alignment with it. Take some steps, read some personal growth books to identify it if you don't know. Maybe you're blessed that you already know that you knew from an early point in life. It took me a few years. So number one, identify that so that then you can just start living a life more intentional around that purpose, because that purpose can drive us. It's a spiritual journey. For me, if you're a person of faith, I think you can't really identify your purpose without identifying God's plan for you. Now, like any journey, it takes time, but once you've identified your purpose, you'll continually refine it, and if you continually grow personally and professionally. Um, you can ask a mentor to help you. You can certainly spend some time, reflection, and prayer, some quiet time. Start with thinking about your values and what's most important to you. And then start getting your activities in alignment with that. It's one of the things I'm so passionate about now is I very carefully evaluate any commitment I make before I make it. Because I've learned the hard way. Number one, it's very easy for me to say yes to something and then later realize, wow, this is really not in harmony with where I'm going. And so I very carefully evaluate commitments, and sometimes I just need to say no to the activities that fall without or fall outside of that purpose-driven life for me. So figure out where you want to go, and then figure out how you can get there. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.